Hello and welcome to another stream. Today we're gonna talk about the past tenses. Hello again. Today it's all about the past tenses. As some of you might know, there are a few past tenses you should know in order to successfully complete the English A-level exam. And today we're gonna have a look at the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. We also will have a look at past simple versus past progressive, or past continuous, or past or inform sometimes. It's all the same basically. Then we're gonna look at the past perfect. Then we're gonna compare past simple, past progressive, and the past perfect. And we're gonna use the past tenses in the A-level exam, or at least I'm gonna give you an example of how to use them. I think we did it a lot of times actually when we did the demonstration exams, especially when we introduced ourselves. So the examinee in this case introduced him or herself. Normally we pay attention, we as trainers, we pay attention that we use the past tenses so that you have to know how to use them. And yeah, we're gonna start. Just quick, I've listed here also used to and would. And I'm going to explain it to you after we finished with the tenses. Those are, of course, not actual tenses, but they can be used to describe basically past habits. But we're going to discuss it anyways. Let's start with a comparison between better. Past simple and past progressive, or sometimes called past continuous, or the inform. Basically, we can say that the past simple is used to describe finished actions and events in the past. So, for example, Mark went into the library and borrowed his favorite novels. Gothic novels, for example. So that's in the past. It's completed. It's done. There's no effect on the present. There might be an effect on the present, but we're not going to talk about it now. Also, if you imagine a king died, for example. In history, any king died, nobody'd say he dies or something like this. You'd always say the monarch died or the king died, and so on. So it's in the past, it's done. That's important. Remember it. You always, with the past, of course, it can't be in the present, since it's already a completed action. Whereas the past continuous is also used, of course, in the past, but as with the present continuous, you can basically use it or remember it, that you can use it as a background action. In this case, there were a lot of people waiting at the library. Oh no, we're gonna discuss it later. You can use it as background action, such as he was walking on the wall. Why a bird on him. I'm not gonna say the word. The bird did something to him, and something happened, of course. And he was walking, so that's the longer action. Now you can see. And then something happened. Simply as that. And the same you're doing with present. In the present, basically. I'm sitting here and Karina hit me in the face, for example. Sure. But I hope you get it. It's really easy. And of course you can use it if in the past somebody annoyed you. As with the present, if somebody annoys you, or if you want to express annoyance, you can use, with the help of an adverb of frequency, that you or somebody else is annoyed. In this case, yeah, just use it. I've provided another example sentence which is basically almost progressive, almost. There isn't any simple aspect. There were a lot of people waiting at the library. Some of them were looking for a vacant chair, and others were walking up and down. Mark was looking for his best friend, so he didn't sit down. Okay? I hope you get it. There are a lot of actions, longer actions actually, going on. Some people were walking, some of them were looking, and Mark was looking too. Because it wasn't just a simple event that occurred. I'm sorry. It has been a long day. It has been since we're in the present. Unfortunately, it was. But tomorrow, I could tell you that it was a long day. Because it's in the past. Okay, you get it. Very good. Since I guess we don't have any comments, so you are pros in it, actually. So why are we sitting in here and talking, actually? No, I'm just joking. Let's continue with the past perfect. It is basically used to make it clear that one past event happens before another past event. So that you can tell apart what happened before and what happened after. Sometimes, of course, if it's clear which one happened before, you don't necessarily have to use the past perfect, but to make sure that you understood it, or just to be sure that it's correct, just use it. In this case, the first example basically is not as clear-cut as the second example. Nice word. I just felt like Shakespeare and invented some new words. Maybe I just write the linguistics department if they want to add new words. If they're just writing a dictionary or something, I don't know. By the time the bus arrived, Simon had managed to push his way to the front of the crowd. I'm just gonna correct it here. It's just something that happens if you're doing your work fast. In this case, by the time the bus arrived isn't really clear cut when it arrived. So you know through the usage of the past perfect in the second part of the sentence that before the bus arrived, Simon had managed to push his way to the front of the crowd. Very easy and very clear cut. In the second example, it is very clear how the events are structured, or what happens before and what happens after. In this case, before the bus arrived, so the bus wasn't here, Simon managed to push her again. Come on. Push his way to the front of the crowd. I think I just copied it.
And back then, Simon was a girl.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Maybe. Yes, that's true. So Simon managed to push his or her way to the front of the crowd. Now, of course, in this case, we just pretend that Simon is a man. Okay, so just to illustrate, it's clear cut in this sentence. It is very clear cut when which action happens at which point of time. Now we're gonna do a comparison between those three tenses. Basically there are two tenses with different aspects, and compare them. And since you already know how to use it, I think it will be super easy for you. Yesterday, Hester and John played golf. It's just an example, and if you don't know who Hester is, read The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's a great book. The biggest novel in American literature. Yesterday, Hester and John played golf. They began at 9 and finished at 11. So, very difficult. They were playing golf at 10:30. So, it's clear cut. In this time, or at 10:30, they were playing tennis because they were in the middle of the action. So, and you couldn't just say they played. This case doesn't make any sense because it's a longer action. This time last year, I was living in Canada. Yes, it's almost the same thing. What were you doing at 9 p.m. yesterday? Super easy, I know. Past simple, as you know, is a completed action. In the past, it is completed. Therefore, an example sentence could be as follows. I walked home after the concert last night. So, if you're using, or if you want to use the continuous, you could add something like I was walking home after a concert last night, and then a car drove into a house, for example. However, past perfect. Brett, another character of another great American novel, which is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. Brett went to a party last week. Mark went to the same party too. But in this case, or in this situation, they didn't see each other because Mark left at 10:30 and Brett arrived at 11:30. Therefore, when Brett arrived at the party, Mark had already gone home because Mark left before Brett arrived. It's so simple. So I think you won't have any problems with it in exam and in general in your future career as English learners. The flat was dirty. They hadn't cleaned it for weeks. So they were at the flat. Somebody was at any flat at a point of time in the past. And they concluded that the flat hadn't been cleaned. Yes. Therefore, now we're going to discuss how to use it in the exam. I've just outlined basically how you can use it in the introduction. Of course, if there, for example, you have to talk about in the monologue or dialogue, you have to talk about economics and you want to mention past events, so maybe the catastrophe, or just talk about natural catastrophes. You talk about the tsunami that happened in Sri Lanka. Of course, it's in the past. And maybe something happened before or didn't happen at all. But of course, you need the past as with the introduction. But in this case, it's all about the introduction. For example, when I started my course at the Wi-Fi, I had already revised all the English tenses. So a very, very eager student. I wore... so late. I worked as a mechanic. Yes, that's it basically. No. Before I decided to do the A levels, I had taken up a literature class. Don't know why, but just came into my mind. So I think the most important things is how you to know how to use it and remember the things I've told you now. Don't make it super complicated. It can be, in some cases, can be complicated and quite unclear. So there are a lot of gray areas with tenses. But in these streams, we're not gonna talk about gray areas since it will confuse you. So if it's studied into more detail, but remember those things I've talked about, and you will be good to go for the exam. Revise it, and yeah, we will see each other on Wednesday, and I already know the topic, which is traveling and tourism. And I have my exam on Wednesday, and let's see how it works out. Yes, have a great evening and goodbye.